Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Tynamite Show. It's been a minute since we've done one of these properly. Obviously, we did episode 8, which was the John Mayer Sob Rock reaction, well, the album reaction review episode, and it was fitting since the last two episodes sort of been like John Mayer focused ones. But you know, I started this show as a way to really express myself in the way I want to make content. Cover the things I want to cover and be able to clip it and put videos out on my channel and really just diversify what I'm doing. Now, a lot has changed in that time. I'm sure you can probably maybe hear the car in the background just there. We're on my balcony of my new apartment that I've been in for about 2.5 months now at this stage, which is wild to think about. But it's been a crazy 2.5 months, almost 3 months. A lot's changed. I took a break from everything, from my main channel, from playing games, from making content, from everything. And, you know, it was a lot going on in my life 3 months ago. One main thing being a brand new full-time job that I started. So that sort of changed the schedule, the way things work, what I'm doing, and everything like that. Another one being moving into this place, and the co-host of the Tynamite Show, David Jerome, that I was doing the show with, is back overseas with work, so he's going to be gone he's gone for the next 12 months, so until April next year. So I thought about maybe the show doesn't continue, because obviously when I started it was just going to be me, but it really developed into mine and David's show together, and the idea of doing it without him was a bit rough for a while for me to think about. Especially the vibe I was going for, and it made it easier to make things, having him there, one, to bring things up, but also just to work off of, and, you know, we made the skits and things like that, and there was just more I could do with David to make it the show I wanted it to be, him playing music on it, all that sort of stuff. So obviously it changes without him. It definitely changes without him. Which sucks, you know, on some level, but it's what it is. We move on. We get shit done. We do what we got to do. I'm happy to be back. Obviously dealt with some personal stuff as well on top of that. There was just, it was the biggest change in my life the last 3 months. It's just a massive transition period where I didn't even recognize where my life was. I didn't know who I was, what I was doing, where I'm going. Honestly, I didn't know anything. I really didn't know anything. And, you know, I really just needed time to settle into the new job and the new place I'm living in, sort of get my bearings of where my life's going. And look, I'll be honest, because I feel like the Tynamite Show is where I can really be honest in terms of my YouTube career, because that's what it's about, and that's what the focus is on. Last year, I was working full time. I was in a retail job in management, and I'd been in that company for many years, and I loved it. It's a great company. I'll never say a bad word about it, but it wasn't what I'm supposed to be doing. And I thought, look, maybe, you know, I thought YouTube was the answer. I thought this is where my career's going to go. This is, you know, making content. So I went part-time and focused my full attention on YouTube. Now, during that period of time, I also fell out of love with video games, which made it really hard and challenging, because I didn't know what then I wanted to make at the end of 2020. And we get into the start of this year, and I'm trying to work things out. We launched the network, which was fantastic, and doing the podcast, and then I started the Tynamite Show to sort of figure that out. But in the end, what I realized was why I love YouTube is because I just do what I want to do. I make what I want to make. Putting the pressure on where I have to make money, I have to get views, it really ruined it for me. It didn't ruin it. It could have ruined it for me. It didn't ruin it, but it could have. So I went out, and my goal was to get, you know, a full-time job. And not just any full-time job, but a full-time job that does what I love to do. I'm not sure if you can hear the cars that go by, and I haven't thought, I considered this, but I feel like it's a part of the vibe, and we operate off vibe here on the Tynamite Show. And obviously I'm rambling a bit, and we'll get into what the show's going to be, but I'm going to ramble for a bit to start with. But yeah, so where was I? where I wanted to go in my career, and I made that choice of, if I'm going to get a job, it's going to be a job doing what I love to do, what I'm qualified to do. You know, I studied film and media. I'm a content creator. This is what I do. So I did. It's in an interesting industry that I, before starting the job, didn't know anything about, but certainly have learned in massive amounts in the last 2.5, 3 months that I've been working there, and I love it. I love my job. It's a Monday to Friday. It's a 9 to 5. We all work more hours than that, really, in reality, but it's a great opportunity, and it's in the space of making content and doing what I'm good at and what I'm skilled at in a different industry. So that's just sort of what it is in that way. But what that gives me is freedom in the terms of this stuff, where I'm going to talk about what I want to talk about. I'm going to make the content I want to make, and that's what I'm doing. And if you haven't seen on the main channel, what was the main channel, Tynamite Gaming, the announcement video of where my future is, I'm creating an online space for myself to do whatever I want to do, and whenever I want to make something, because that's what I do. That's what my passion is, making content. I've got places to put all of them, whether it's my love of sport, TV, movies, filmmaking, with the Tynamite TV channel. There's a Tynamite Sports channel. For the music stuff, album reactions, just love talking about music, I've got Tynamite Music, and then of course the main channel that you all know, Tynamite, is now Tynamite Gaming, where I'll post my stream clips, stream highlights, full streams, and some other, videos, that anything gaming related, Tynamite plays, all that sort of stuff. And then, of course, the 4 Pillars Network, where the As Always podcast is returning next week, August 23rd. We've got the 4 Pillars podcast, when I jump into Streamcast with Eddie and Sheps, and, of course, this show, the Tynamite show. And then Clubhouse over on patreon.com/asalways, which, they do power the show. So I will thank the producers over on Patreon in just a moment. But I just want to finish this thought, which is, look, I did think YouTube was probably going to be the full-time career, but I love that I can just still do it as my passion. And I'm now creating a space where I can do whatever I want to make. And I hope you come on the journey with me, because I'm still going to be around. I'm still going to be doing my thing, and I'm still going to be making content and just trying to do the best I can on here. So I'm not going anywhere. And, I've gone through a rough period of time, if I'm totally honest. Obviously, a lot of great things I was saying with this job and my future, but if I'm honest with myself, this is, so I've been going through some of the hardest period of my life, definitely. But this has been great escape for me, to be able to come back to this and give myself that time to really register and do the Clubhouse podcast weekly that I've been doing on Patreon, to be doing the 4 Pillars podcast. And I've worked my way back, and now I feel, in a place where I can give all myself to you guys and this content, and make what I really would love to make. So I'm excited, and I'm happy to be back. And I think I'm going to be able to do some good stuff with you guys and for you guys. So that's why we're here. And today, I want to talk about Den Sessions, the album that I helped produce with my best friend David, the co-host of this show. So we're going to break it down. I obviously would have wanted David to be here for that, but he has the worst internet ever, so I can't even get him on a call to do it. I can FaceTime him, but it's not the same. Timing's just not going to work. I will eventually do something with David when we can, to break down this album, to interview him about this album, because he's got so many thoughts on it. And obviously I can't go into as much detail as perhaps he does, but certainly I can give you my perspective that was on the journey the whole time as well, which is really cool. Then there's a few, news topics, stuff I want to talk about, and what's going on, and what the future is of this show. And as I said, we got all these channels now: gaming channel, TV channel, sports channel, music channel. So this will be sort of, I guess, the umbrella of all that, which is exciting. So, of course, we couldn't be here without the amazing producers over at patreon.com/asalways. So if you want to support the show, want to support me, head over to patreon.com/asalways. And you can. So we have Ollie, the Superior Ollie, Every Dobbs, Clark 53, Damien, Ferrantino, Flash Paradox, Franco, Jesper Olsen, King Richard III, Olbrick, Ryan Hafer, Tristan Weaver, and Ballsack 47. Thank you, you sweet vintage lads, for helping power this podcast. Alright, so as I was saying, there's, we've got the 4 main channels now. We've got the 4 Pillars Network, 4 Pillars Clips channel, Tynamite Gaming, Tynamite Music, Tynamite Sports, Tynamite TV, so much. And the truth is, this show is sort of the umbrella show of my 4 channels. Not the network. The network's the network. Clip channel's the clip channel. But of the 4 Tynamite channels, this is the umbrella show, where we can talk about all of the above. not necessarily everything. Not every week there'll be something to talk about with everything, but, you know, it's just that freedom to sort of cover everything, what's going on over there. And by the time, you know, the show's out, there will be the, you know, first episode of the sports podcast, which is exciting, over on the sports channel. There will be, I've got a blooper reel from the skit Dave and I did over on Tynamite TV, Tynamite Gaming. There should be by now, because I think this is coming out Friday. The Final Fantasy VII plays I did, so fun. I thought it was hilarious to make. And then my Room for Squares album reaction of John Mayer. So it's just super exciting to have these channels, have these spaces, do all this. And like I said on the announcement, it's not necessarily a schedule or anything. It's just those are the sorts of pieces of content I'm going to do there. Chuck them up as much as I can. I'd like to think the sports podcast is going to be weekly, but again, busy man. I just want to be able to do it when I can, when it's important, especially the big cards, though, obviously, for the big UFC fights, things like that. Or big events. Will always be something. Reviews, previews for big events, big sporting moments, for sure. But this is what I want to be doing weekly, absolutely. So yeah, I guess that's the main thing now. Is, you know, the future for me and my content is do what I love to do. There's no pressure on money. There's no pressure on views. No pressure on anything. Come on the journey with me. Don't. Totally up to you guys. But I'm just here to do what I love. Talk about what I love and have fun doing it. And today I want to talk about the Lord of the Rings Amazon show. Been doing a lot of talking about that on the Four Pillars podcast. We'll be talking about that more on the As Always podcast next week. But what I want to talk about is the news that season 2 is not filming in New Zealand, which is just atrocious. I saw Free Guy, Ryan Reynolds' new movie, last Friday night, and it's fucking tremendous. We're going to talk about that. We're going to review that, spoiler free, and then we're going to break down Den Sessions. And I'll give you my inside view. And for those who haven't checked it out, there will be links in the description to download and stream Den Sessions and check out the videos over on his channel, David Jerome. It's amazing. It's fantastic. It was the time of my life, and it's the best thing I've ever done in all my years of making content, to be totally honest with you. Absolutely the funnest experience in all those years. So it's exciting. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Man, I feel so weirdly insecure sitting in the balcony doing this. I'm sort of talking quieter than I normally would because it's a quiet street, and I'm literally like out on the street with lights in front of me, camera, microphone. People might see it and be like, what the fuck is going on up there? These fucking kids these days, right? So I'm just feeling weird talking out loud. Everyone's listening. No one's listening. Literally no one's listening. But I feel like they are. Anyway, if you haven't heard the news, if you haven't been following, so Amazon spent like $1 billion making a Lord of the Rings TV show series set in the Second Age of Middle-earth, using the canon and the lore from many of Tolkien's writings, mainly, you would imagine, the Silmarillion and the appendices from the Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. They've revealed an image that looks to be Valinor. They've got the sacred trees in the background, so it gives away, and that's a First Age image. Now, they've said the show is mainly set in the Second Age, so I assume this is just a flashback period or a prologue or an introduction episode that sets up the show. Or maybe they do have a lot of the First Age and then leads into Season 2's the Second Age. I don't know. I really don't know. But what they did so right, and what I was loving about what they were doing, is they filmed the first season in New Zealand. They just wrapped up production. They've announced September 2022. Season 1 will air and will launch on Amazon Prime Video, which is, you know, it's amazing. It's exciting, and I'm just happy to be here to be on the hype train, even if the show does suck. I've had a year of hype and just immersing myself in Tolkien literature and Lord of the Rings films. And I will take full advantage of that, even if the show ends up being atrocious. But one thing that I really loved about it was they're filming in New Zealand, which, look, if you don't know, it's the heart of what makes Lord of the Rings Lord of the Rings. Obviously, you've got the crew and the cast that put the Lord of the Rings trilogy together, and then the Hobbit trilogy together. Now, I do enjoy the Hobbit trilogy. It doesn't even fucking rub the socks of the Lord of the Rings films, but it's great in its own way, certainly. And I love the Hobbit book, my favourite book of all time. I personally even prefer it probably more than the Lord of the Rings books in some ways. It's certainly for the reread purposes. But a big part of it, and what is Middle Earth, and when you see Middle Earth on screen, it's New Zealand. When you see New Zealand, you're like, that's Middle Earth. You just know it. It's this fantasy world. It's this place that's out of this world. It just is. Go there. It's out of this world. It's one of the most beautiful countries in the world. And it really, it is, what to me, it's the heart of Middle Earth. So I was already just like, they're treating it with respect. They're filming in New Zealand. They're taking this seriously. They're doing the right things when putting together this show. Now the news has come out that season 2 will move production to the UK, to the United Kingdom. And at first I was like, oh, fuck, the New Zealand government fucked this up. They're, pushing him out. COVID-related, potentially. What are they doing? This is a disaster. Now, I've done a bit of reading, and this was an Amazon decision. This was 100% an Amazon decision, and it's a mistake. It's a mistake. Honestly, it's a disaster. Especially because, we'll get into that. I want to read the quotes here. So the New Zealand government said it was told to move on. It was told of the move on Thursday and was disappointed at the decision. Amazon Studios advised that post-production work on season 1 will continue in New Zealand till June 2022. That's the Economic Development Minister, Stuart Nash, of New Zealand. Amazon spent about 663 million New Zealand dollars filming the first season of the show, according to the New Zealand government. Mr. Nash told Radio New Zealand that filming in the country had also created 2,000 jobs during the pandemic. Amazon said pre-production on the second season would begin in the UK next year. The TV version of The Lord of the Rings is scheduled to launch September 2022. Okay. But what was the quote about? Okay, here we go. This is what I was looking for. Amazon said in a statement, the shift from New Zealand to the UK aligns with the studio's strategy of expanding its production footprint and investing in studio space across the UK, with many of Amazon's tentpole series and films already calling the UK home. We want to thank the people and the government of New Zealand for the hospitality and dedication and for providing the Lord of the Rings series with an incredible place to begin this journey. That was said by Vernon Sanders, Vice President and co-head of TV at Amazon Studios. Elijah Wood even tweeted out just a facepalm emoji, which I fucking agree with. And ultimately, I mean, you look at that dollar figure, how much it costs, and it's not that the New Zealand government was charging him. They were giving him huge subsidies. I think it was 20% subsidies to film in New Zealand, to make it cheaper for them to film in New Zealand. Australian government does the same thing. That's why a lot of the Disney and Marvel films are filmed in Australia these days. And it's for that exact reason. But $630 million for one season of a show is fucking astronomical amounts of money. And I've got to imagine it's money related, because if the show and showrunners and series cared about the authenticity of Middle Earth, and the fact that you've already filmed the first season in New Zealand, I just don't understand. I just don't understand why you would move it to the UK. It could be a big old honey dick, whether like you put it on New Zealand, hook them all in, and then they're already in and they won't care by the time season 2 comes. We will care, and I do care. I mean, in my opinion, it's got to be money. I mean, they've said it themselves. They've already got studios. They've already got this production space. They've already invested a lot of money. As they've said, in the UK, many of Amazon's tentpole series and films already calling the UK home. To me, that is just, we have spent the most money anyone's ever spent on one season of a show in history. We can't sustain that. It's not sustainable. How do we cut that down? Obviously, it's going to cost a lot as is to make a show of the quality they're going for. And the, that's the budget of the fucking trilogy of The Lord of the Rings. It's just fucking insane. But if you've already got so much, like, your production crew, equipment, set up, infrastructure in the UK, that's why I think it's happening. It's better in the UK than the US if you're talking, like, scenery. Go up to Ireland, Scotland, it's where, a lot of Game of Thrones is filmed, but it's Westeros Game of Thrones. That's not New Zealand. That's not Middle Earth. It's not the same. and we can't pretend it is the same. New Zealand and the UK, two countries I've been to, two countries I've spent some fair time in. They don't look the same, and you can tell the difference. They're not the same. The UK is not Middle Earth. Granted, you're setting, I'd say, a substantial amount of this series in a place, if you don't know, called Numenor, an island off the coast of Middle Earth. It's a place you haven't seen before. So my only out for that is if we spend the majority of our time in this series from season 2 onwards, not in Middle Earth, but in Numenor. Obviously, we're going to have to see Middle Earth. They're going to have to fake their way through it. But it's just not on. To me, it's just stupid. It's foolish. It's not it. It's not it. It's not Middle Earth. Hopefully they do some things down in New Zealand as the years go on. Just even potentially some fucking scenic shots, and then green screen implant all your sets and things into the scenery. Because Jesus Christ, you're not going to film anything in the UK that's going to look like the mountains of New Zealand, the scenery of New Zealand. It's not on, mate. It's fucking not on. And at the end of the day, ultimately, I think it's a money thing. I just don't have any other way. The amount of money spent on this first season, and New Zealand can give them all the subsidies they want. There's nothing else they've got there. Amazon has there in New Zealand in terms of infrastructure to save spending. It's just going to keep costing them that much money. Even with New Zealand government offering them more. The New Zealand government obviously want them there. It creates huge tourism for them. I mean, New Zealand's tourism rose an incredible amount after the Lord of the Rings films. You watch New Zealand tourism ads, they use Middle Earth and Lord of the Rings in them all the time. They did the same when The Hobbit was coming out. It's brilliant marketing. It's brilliant for the country, and those films brought out New Zealand and showed the world New Zealand. It's an incredible country. I'm thankful, to call myself half a Kiwi. They're incredible people. It's an incredible country, incredible culture, and I'm really disappointed for them, to be honest, that they aren't getting this show. They deserve it. Their country is Middle Earth. That's what it is. That's my opinion. It's a shame. I get what Amazon's coming from, because it's an astronomical amount of money they spent, and it's just not sustainable, because they're not going to make that back in a season of a show. It's just not going to happen. I don't care how much money they have, which is a lot, but it's just, yeah, it's not sustainable. They're going to have to cut costs, and the way to cut costs is to film it in the UK where you've got the infrastructure. It's probably not necessarily cheaper, per capita for what they're doing, like cost of like maybe cast, crew, renting places, but they're already paying for so much in there with the other shows, their other movies. So I think that's what their idea is, and hopefully they've got some outs by using a lot of locations we've never seen before and that aren't necessarily in Middle Earth. But they can't stay out of Middle Earth forever, and it's just disappointing. I'm just sad. I'm just disappointed. But it's what it is. The shot we do have of Valinor looks gorgeous. I'm just really hoping that, this first season's fantastic. And that at least we do get that season in New Zealand. And let's see what they do with it. Because certainly from the photo you can see they've used the beautiful scenery in New Zealand, and then imposed obviously their effects in there. Valinor, and it looks I feel like I'm looking at Middle Earth. I feel like I'm looking at the Lord of the Rings, and that's what you want, and that's not what we're going to get come season 2 onwards. I guarantee it. But that's my 2 cents. Let's talk Free Guy, the new Ryan Reynolds movie that just released in cinemas. I saw it last Friday night with my brother, and I was excited to see it. I love Ryan Reynolds, and it looked like a bit of fun. But, I wasn't expecting anything crazy. I was like, well, Ryan Reynolds, good comedy. It's a decent concept, very Truman Show-esque, just in a more modern video game format. You got Taika Waititi's in there, like, just some good stuff. And the marketing video they did with, Ryan Reynolds and Taika did with the Deadpool and Korg MCU crossover ad thing was just, it's fucking marketing genius. So we live in Ryan Reynolds' world, it's just unbelievable. But, when I saw the movie, and genuinely, it might be because we're post-pandemic, well, not post-pandemic, but, the cinemas and movies coming out again were sort of at the, I'd like to think, the other side of the worst of it. You fucking never know what variants are going to come out, but you know, we can only judge by where we're at today, and it might be the time we're at, but you need escapism. You need fun, feel-good movies, and I haven't seen a fun, feel-good movie in a while. And Free Guy is exactly that. It is fucking awesome. I had such a great time with that movie. Way more than I even thought I could have with it, to be honest. I'm just going to look up the cast here, make sure I get everyone right. But, yeah, Ryan Reynolds kills it, as he always does. And for those who don't know, the concept of Free Guy is it's based in a video game world called Free City, and it's a multiplayer game, very like much a parody, if like a GTA Online, where everyone just does what they want. They're going online playing this game, they're just wrecking things, buying cars, helicopters, guns, shooting up the place, robbing banks, all that sort of stuff. And Free Guy, Guy, Ryan Reynolds' character, is an NPC, a non-playable character, and he's just a bank clerk. That's his job, is an NPC. He wears a blue shirt, he has goldfish, he gets up every day, he gets coffee, and everyone drinks coffee, and everyone has the same coffee. It's a medium, what is medium coffee? Medium coffee with cream, 2 sugars, I think. I don't know, I forget. I don't know, but they say it so much during the movie. I realise if you haven't seen it, like, why are you talking about it? And, you know, he goes to work. He's with his best friend, the security guard of the bank. They get robbed by players every day, and that's their day. Rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. They all have their lines they're supposed to say. They all have the things they're supposed to say. Everyone's very happy and just, you know, pleasure to be here, and they have the interactions. But then you also have the world outside, the real world. That's going on, and there's a great storyline there with Jodie Comer's character, who's is Molotov Girl, which is her video game persona name that she uses. Taika Waititi's character Antoine runs this video game company and is the creator of Free City, and then there's an overarching storyline going on there with some shady things going on in the industry. We can all relate to that these days, and that relates to Joe Keery and Jodie Comer's characters, and so many great actors in this movie. This is a really, really well cast movie, and there's so many amazing cameos. I don't want to give anything away, but there is a particular actor that Ryan is good friends with that is in this movie that you wouldn't know. And I turned to my brother Harlan and I said, "Dude, that is this person." And then he listened to his voice. He goes, "Oh my God, it is," because you don't see their face. So see if you can pick that up. Plus, there's just heaps and heaps of cameos. Like, I don't know. And I realize at the end, there's some moments happening. You're like, oh, it's Disney, of course. That's how they're getting away with so much cool shit that no other movie can get away with. By having so many great actors just appearing out of nowhere. And Ryan Reynolds, I'm sure his mates just want to show up for him and just be a part of a day there for a laugh because, you know, he'd be a great guy to work with. But the storyline comes to the point where Ryan Reynolds' character, realizes that the world's not as it should be. He has that moment where he breaks out of his code. And there's an explanation of why that is, and there's a storyline to why that is, and it fits into the story, and I'm not going to spoil any of that, but he sort of starts to realize that he can play the game. He's not... And he doesn't know that he's in a game. He thinks this is the real world, and he's like, wait, I can actually make choices? I can do what I want? This is crazy. This is cool. And what did it was, you know, he has feelings and falls in love with this Molotov girl, the Jodie Comer's character. And that's how the dynamic sort of happens within the game, and then it's sort of that journey, that storyline of those experiences and that outside world storyline, trying to find out how that links to what's going on inside and how Ryan Reynolds' character Guy can help that. And throughout it, you have just some amazing, like, funny as fuck moments, but some real humanity to it as well. There's real heart to it. It's a feel-good movie with great actors. It's got great writing. The comedy's on point. And then, honestly, the whole end sequence of the movie Oh, it was so much fun. It was the most fun I've had in a movie since Endgame. Like, they just put out, honestly, all the stops. And like I said earlier, because it's Disney, and they did two things. But the first thing, by the time the second thing happened, you knew that it could happen. One thing happened, and I was like, how the fuck are they doing that? How the fuck? Oh, it's Disney. They can get away with that. If you're a video game nerd, you're a comic book nerd, you're a movie nerd, you're just into like pop culture, there's just so many different references. Of course, there's some things that you're like, yeah, whatever on, but there's lots of cool, fun stuff for us to sink our teeth into and really enjoy. And I just had a great time watching the movie. I just thoroughly enjoyed it. It was paced really well. The story was solid. The actors are amazing. The cameos are great. There's just lots of cool fan moments that you're like, this isn't a sequel to anything. This is just a standalone movie, yet somehow you feel like you're getting fan service throughout it. It's just crazy for being, for knowing pop culture, for knowing video games, for knowing comic books, for knowing movies. You feel like you're getting payoff and fan service. And that's just, they just did a really good job. They announced they were going to do a sequel. I don't think that's right. I don't think you need one. It doesn't make any sense. But certainly, I'm sure I'll go see it. But I don't think you can capture what made this first movie so good, which was, one, it's just standalone heart, a bit of its uniqueness. Truman Show's the only thing I could sort of relate it to, and the Truman Show's, it just is a better movie, but Free Guy certainly just in its own way stands on its own as a really fun movie. But you can't capture what it did again, I think, in terms of its fun, because part of it was a bit of shock value and a bit of surprise and like what they're doing and the concept going in. You're a little confused with the trailers. I mean, you sort of know. I sort of know, but it does a lot more than you expect, I think. So if you haven't seen Free Guy, go and see Free Guy. It's absolutely tremendous. Great movie. Highly recommend you go see it. And if you have seen it, don't put spoilers in the comments, but you know that you guys, if you know me, you know the scene I absolutely lost it at. You know the moment I was like jumping out of my seat. You absolutely know. But yeah, that's Free Guy. I just opened a sparkling water, flavored, of course. I'm not a crazy person, but I realized the table I moved over there, so we're gonna balance it over on this outdoor sofa. All right. Last thing I want to talk about today, I want to talk to you guys about Den Sessions. It's the album, David Drome's debut album. Our friend, our buddy, former co-host of the show, that we produced together, we worked on together in the Den where we shot this show. The first first 7 episodes of the show, we did it in the Den. Filmed all, the majority of the videos we've ever done on this channel in the Den. We recorded this album in the Den, also in this current apartment in my closet right after I moved here. At the start of June, we put the final touches on it. And I want to go through song for song and talk about it the same way I did the album reaction. Why am I quoting it like that? I did an album reaction to Sob Rock, but I'm not reacting to this. I've heard every song 1,000 times, quite literally, and worked on it. Even wrote one of them with David. But I want to give you some insights and backstories and talk it out. I obviously would have loved to have sat here with David, or at least over a phone call or something, broken it down with him and let him explain in real detail what he would want to say personally about song for song. But I want to give you guys, the next best thing would be me, to give you the insight song for song. I'm not going to get too personal with David's stuff because, I feel like that's him. For him to say, but I'll say what I can say, and I'll say what it means to me, certainly, and some fun stories about the album. Again, links in the description to all this. Go stream it. I think it's an amazing piece of work, and he's just unbelievably talented, as you all are well aware, I think, by this point. The first thing, the cover art of the album, it was just exactly what we both had talked about for a long time and imagined it, but honestly it turned out better than I probably expected it to be, if I'm being quite honest with myself. I'd imagined it in my head for months before when we'd called it Den Sessions and we were talking about it and what was being said about it, And we knew it would be that backdrop where we, shot so many of the videos on David's channel against, with the eagle, I don't even know what the fuck it is, to be honest with you. And the lights and everything. And, having David's, in there with the guitar, like those are all just elements we knew were going to be there, but shooting it together, honestly, like I just went through the camera roll because I have it on this SD card, but it was the fourth shot we did within 2 minutes. I set up the cameras, I set up the lights, and I had all these lights set up, as many as I have here in the room, and it was just so bright. And David looks at me and he goes, dude, this is so bright. I want it to be like really dim and chill and like relaxed. I'm like, dude, trust me. I know how to fucking shoot a photo. I know how to film. I've got this. Because I know how low I was going to shoot with ISO and with the f-stop. I was going to turn everything right down so only the bare minimum light's going to get through. I shot it in RAW, so I had a lot of room to work and edit the photo. This is boring detail, but you got the warmth in there, you got the light in there, and I just love the colors. I just think that the cover illustrates the vibe, the tone of the album so well. And I feel like when you're listening to each of the songs and you're looking at the cover on your Spotify or on your Apple Music or whatever streaming service you're using, they just fit and connect so well. So I was really proud of what we did with the album cover. So the first song, let's talk about Little Blue Eyes. Originally, I'll just play the start of it. Me singing Who Says.
I'm Tyler, recording.
Yeah, so, that part, Little Blue Eyes is the last song we recorded for the album, and honestly, I couldn't imagine it without it, for many, many reasons. But having that first bit, originally, we were supposed to release this in the start of July. We had a lot of distribution issues. I don't even want to get into it. And it was supposed to have an 8th song, but it was a bonus track. It was a live cover of Who Says by John Mayer. And so it would have been a nice little tie in the start of the album. I walk in singing Who Says, and it's a bit of a laugh between David and I. But then at the end of the album, bonus track is Who Says that David's playing. But it's not meant to be, it's fine. But Who Says was a song he and I were like playing and singing to each other, like just sort of in our heads throughout the whole month and plus of recording these songs and putting it all together. It was a much longer process. It was, an 18-month process, 2-year process of like the songwriting process, where David wants to go as a singer-songwriter, developing the skills of producing music, recording music at the highest quality. He and I have been working on it for that whole time. But, 15 months ago, we couldn't have recorded the quality we're recording here. We learnt a lot. We got really good at it, and mixing and editing and doing all that ourselves. No one touched this album but David and I. This is completely us. And I'm proud of that. Not every video, the artwork, all the songs, all the production, every detail, all the marketing, everything. Pre, during, post-production. No one else but the two of us. It's, two best friends doing a project they love with the ultra-talented David Jerome. And this is David. I can't claim this. This is David's album. He's unbelievable. I'm just his biggest fan at the end of the day. That's how I see it. I'm his biggest fan. And I just do what I can to help him get it out there and give him a kick up the ass sometimes to do it, because it's who I am. But that was just a genuine moment that happened when he was recording those last little bit of Little Blue Eyes. And I walk in, I felt so bad. I was like, oh, sorry, dude. And he starts laughing. He's like, dude, I go, oh, sorry, I'll delete the stuff and we'll start recording again. He's like, no, we're keeping that. That's fucking hilarious. That's so us. To start the album and have that little moment and that hint that you can see is the fun we had and who we are as people and who was behind this album. And Little Blue Eyes, I've heard many iterations of this song over the last 2 years. And it's never sounded like this. This is the slowest, most relaxed, lullaby style song version of Little Blue Eyes. And Little Blue Eyes was the first song David ever wrote. It was the first song he ever played of his to me. I'll never forget it. It was May of 2019. June 2019. In the backyard of the house where the den is, of the house he grew up in, of how he and I spent many years, hanging out since we were kids. And he came back from overseas, and I asked him, and I was like, because I'd written a song, and I go to him, dude, have you ever written a song? Because he's obviously a great, he's obviously a musician, he's an actor and a theatre actor, a musical theatre actor, more specifically. And I know he plays guitar, so I was like, have you written a song? And he goes, dude, I actually have. Let me play you. I've written 2 recently. And I think he'd written probably like 3 or 4 by this point, ever. But they were all really good, by the way. One was Deck of Cards. I think it was the second or third song he'd ever written. And the other was, but the first one was Little Blue Eyes. And he played it for me, and I just started crying. Because David's someone I've believed in since I was 12 years old and we met for the first time. He's a little shit when we were kids, but talent-wise and his heart, I've always believed in David. More than probably he believes in himself, or did believe in himself, and maybe sometimes more than he deserved, but I've always believed in him. And I knew what he could do, and I knew who I thought he could become. And when he played me Little Blue Eyes, I cried because, 1, it's a beautiful song, but 2, that I was right. I was like, dude, you've just proved me right. You don't need to be famous. You don't need to sell out arenas playing your music. I know who you are, and you've just shown me that with this song, by writing this song. I knew you were this talented. I knew you were this good. And then he plays his Deck of Cards right after. I'm like, oh my God. And then I shared the lyrics to this thing I'd written, and he made it into a song for me, and put it together. And then he and I, we realized he and I were always meant to be friends. We've known that since we were kids. We didn't know why. Maybe it's this. Maybe this was the whole thing. But he's my best mate. And we just from there were like, every song he would write or play or anything I'd write, we'd share with each other. We'd work on together, even while he was still overseas during most of 2019. And then when he came back at the beginning of 2020 to Australia, we knew this was the project. We knew this was what we were going to do, and there were a lot of missteps. We didn't really know what we were doing. He had a whole bunch of songs by then, and COVID had just started. There was so much going on, and really we just started his channel like, let's just put out some covers. We did the Future Days thing where we really tried to add the production value to it, and that blew up. And the community got so behind it. You guys got so behind it. And then we did Take On Me, and we just kept going. And then the start of the year, it was just that moment of finally, it's like, dude, we've just got to put out an original. You've got so many songs, let's do it. And we knew we wanted to do this album. And David finally was at the stage where I think he believed in himself enough and what his songs enough, and they'd sat enough, and that he digested them enough and knew what he wanted them to be. We did the Deck of Cards single. And, he and I mixed that, and he spent so many hours, like unbelievable hours that he spent mixing. I remember the week we were doing it, I was deathly sick. So I was there for the first day of, we were just mixing, recording vocals and guitar and stuff. But then I was just deathly sick for most of the week, and he just didn't leave that den, putting the bass down, the drums down, the electric down, everything down. I would just come in and check. And then we sent it off to another producer with more experience to sort of do the final mix, and we put that out. And then when he found out he was, going overseas, we realized, holy shit, dude, we've got to get a collection of songs out. We've got to do it now. And we, by that point, had recorded Stand By You, as it is in Den Sessions, and Man For You. So Man For You was the first Den Session song that was recorded and set. And it was just, the idea with it was just going to be we were going to do a weekly series of acoustics of his songs, and then at the end put it together as this album. It didn't end up being that. We only did Man For You, and then I think both of us just went through a bit of a mental blank. I don't know what happened. We were just sort of like a bit low, not feeling creative. But then when we realized he was going and we had a time limit, it was like, shit, we've got to get something down. And we thought we'd be lucky to get 4 to 5 songs down together, and just put out a little EP, and we wouldn't have time to film any videos, and that'll be it. But then somehow we managed to get heaps of videos done, do all this production work, and get 7 songs into the album. 8 if we managed to get that bonus track, which we didn't. But we will release it as a video on YouTube. And Man View existed, and that's a song that I wrote or started to write. And I'd written a verse, I'd written probably half of it, or it was probably more than half, but things got cut. So I came to him like, dude, I want to work on this song. I've got this idea. What do you think? And he goes, oh, right, cool. I like the idea. I like where you're going. I like how it's structured. And then he sort of played with it, put some chords down, and then we sat there for a day and we had, I think, the first verse, the choruses, and then the outro bridge part at the end. We didn't have the second verse yet, or the whistle. That was everyone's favorite part, the bloody whistle. And we then, hang on, I'm just going to play Man for You a bit while we're here. And we're on stream, and we were just playing some songs on stream. I know I'm not a perfect man. And he played it, and I go to him, dude, it's like, I'm like, he was humming. So after the second chorus, he was humming. There was no whistle, he was humming. Because it was like the first time we'd played through it, really, the second time we played through it. We'd just spent the morning writing it. And, well, I think it was the day before writing it, and it was the next morning we're on this stream. And I go, dude, what if you put a whistle in? And then he did on stream, and we both stopped and go, that's it. And then that day, I'd actually, because I rewatched the stream recently, I actually had come up with half of the second verse and was showing him. So we spent that day ironing out the second verse, add the whistle in, and we just recorded it that day, filmed it that day, had it all finished in that day, as it is as you hear it now. Compass on a shelf, I'd pick myself back up. We had the video done, had the recording done, everything was done at this. 'Cause this thing would be true, I'd be the man for you. And that was a special one for me. Obviously, it's quite personal for me as well. But special just to have a song on David's album that he and I worked on together. So it's a really special one for me. It's as a biased individual, this is my favourite song on the album. Objectively, it's not, but objectively, it's probably my second favourite, but it's my favourite song on the album. It means the most to me. It's very personal. And I generally think it's a beautiful song. And seeing all the love so many people have given listening to the album about that song in particular has meant a lot. And Dave and I were on the phone the other day and both like, dude, we really fucking did well with that one. That was a good one. And that was the first song we got down with this album. The second song was Stand By You, which was always just such a vibe, upbeat song that needed to be on there as an acoustic, very Jack Johnson-esque. So we had those two already in the back burner, right? And then when we had the timeline, I go to him, dude, there's two songs I need from you before you leave. Even if we don't release them, I just need to have them for myself as a good recording. It was Angels in the Snow and The You I Knew, two of my two favorites of his. And he goes, okay, well, if we're going to record those two, let's do I Want Sophie in My Mind. So those are the three we were working on first. And we thought it'll just be Stand By You, Man for You, Sophie in My Mind, The You I Knew, and Angels in the Snow. It'll be 5 songs. That's all we got time for. We've only got a couple of weeks. We need to get this done. But we were relentless. We spent day and night working on, getting the guitar down, the vocals down, mixing it right, getting the right acoustics, re-recording and recording again and making sure it's sharp and sounds great. And then we still had a bit of time. We're like, okay, what else can we do? Now, the thing was, as well, during that period, he'd also written The Art of Letting Go. It was the last, which is what I love about, especially the track order, the track list. Little Blue Eyes being the first song he ever wrote. The last song on the album is The Art of Letting Go, which is the last song at that point they'd ever written. He's already off writing more songs. Now, and he's written, don't get it twisted. These aren't the 7 songs he's written. He's written dozens upon dozens upon dozens of songs. And there's ones you haven't heard that will come out, down the road. And there's, I'm sure like any artist, there's always those ones you're just never going to hear because there's just too many. There's no time. But he wrote The Art of Letting Go, and I think when we realized he had time, he's like, I have to have that on there. I just have to get it out because that means a lot. Obviously, it's about a transition period in life and in his life, and that's what it was about. Knowing he's leaving and he's going on to that next chapter, and that's what The Art of Letting Go is. So it was just, I think, important for him to get it down, and I think when we started working on that, we knew we can't. I think we would have felt awful not having Little Blue Eyes on there, it being the first song, and it just opening it up. And, there's different iterations, and I'm sure we'll do a different version of Little Blue Eyes down the road in some way, shape, or form, but in this way, as a lullaby, as a nice introduction, as an opener, it has to be on there. It's the first song he ever wrote. It starts the story. It starts David's journey. And then, it's songs and stories of love, being in love, of losing love, of the different feelings you have before, during, and after, the getting over it, the still thinking about them, the being in the relationship and what they mean to you, as, songs like Little Blue Eyes is, as Man For You is, to the breakups and the heartbreak, like the You I Knew, like Angels in the Snow, like that second chorus that, like, because he reworked that song a few times, and that second chorus just kills me. It's just unbelievable what David did with that song. And then Stand By You, like, coming up with the track order is very important to, I think, have it right. And Little Blue Eyes is always going to be the start, and The Art of Letting Go is always going to be the end. And I think the order's great because you have these, it sets the tone. You have these great 4 songs with a beautiful opening lullaby, finger-picking guitar, acoustic song in Little Blue Eyes. Then you've got a big, powerful, strumming vocal song in The You I Knew. And then a sort of in-between melodic song, like Sophia My Mind, that's got such visual, vivid lyrics. And it really paints a picture for you. And then going into, a strumming, soft love song like Man For You that hits you in a few different ways. And I think the whistle really is just a powerful piece to keep you guessing at that point. But then you've had 4 songs, and you've sort of get an idea of, like, okay, this is the type of... You almost try to define David, I feel like, with those 4 songs as you listen to the album the first time. And that's why, to me, it was important after those 4 songs. And I said to him, Stand By You has to be 5th. I think you need those 4 first. I don't think Stand By You needs to be in there yet. I think Stand By You needs to come in next. Because it just... No, you can't define him. David has so much range. And you guys haven't seen the start. He's barely out of second gear in this album. Vocally especially. He's got such range to show and so much more to show. But this, album was to do a specific thing, and it does that. It's an anthology piece of many different stories, with a clear beginning, the journey in the middle, and then Angels in the Snow had to be that sort of penultimate song. I always thought it was going to be the last song, but after we wrote Art of Letting Go, I was like, okay, no, Angels is I just call it Angels because it was just called Angels up until the album was being uploaded to a distributor. And David goes to me, it's called Angels in the Snow. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's been Angels for a year. You know what I mean? Like, we've never called it anything else. Obviously the lyrics are lost like Angels in the Snow, but still I was like, what the fuck's happening? This is wild. This is insane. You're an insane person, David. But that's the really getting to the end of that and looking towards the getting over of that heartbreak and being on that journey and reflecting on it, of your own mistakes and the other person. And it's a story of 2 different people, both sides of the relationship. And then that hope and that want of getting over it and moving on. And then you go to The Art of Letting Go. It's not about a girl. It's not about love at all. It's about the you inside yourself, your dreams, what you want, putting yourself first and going on a journey onto what's next. Chase your lightning, die for gold. Welcome my friend to The Art of Letting Go. And when he got back, he was on a plane back from New Zealand when he wrote it, and he lands. I pick him up from the airport, and he's like, Tyler, I wrote the song. And The Art of Letting Go is a concept that he and I had been trying to write, certainly more him so than me, been trying to write for 2 years. There's a song called Be Who I Can Be that's of a similar idea and concept, that he and I had been like combined 2 of our different things we'd written into one that fit together well, and we're working on it, ironing it out. We're in New York, and we're in a Zara shopping for clothes, and this is in New York, and I think it was the day we were seeing John Mayer at Madison Square Garden, and we were coming with lyrics, just going crazy over it. But in the end, we sort of go through it, and it was good, but It wasn't the song. It wasn't saying what we wanted it to say. It wasn't doing what The Art of Letting Go does. And then a year ago, he comes to me with another one. He's like, I think I've got it. And he combines sort of 2 other songs he's working on. And again, it was great. And I think it was better than Be I Can Be, but it wasn't quite what he was going for. But then he lands, and fucking weeks before he leaves, and he has The Art of Letting Go, and he plays for me, and I'm like, holy fucking shit, that is the best song you've ever written. That is the song. That's it. You hit it. And it took, some big moments and a lot of soul searching, but he found it. And he came in with The Art of Letting Go, and it's, and he finally shows a bit of that vocal range that, like, it just teases you with what he can do. Like, come on. That's how you end an album, guys. This is how you end an album. I'm so proud of him. I'm so proud of him. I wish he was here to talk about this with. Really, he'd be better than me. Diving for gold, welcome, my friend, to the art of letting go. I just can't believe it's out there. I mean, honestly. The process of putting that together and how crushed we were, and I'd get home from work, he'd come to the city, pick up my keys, work on it. I'd come home, we'd keep working on it all night till 2 a.m, filming stuff on this balcony. Like, right here's where the You I Knew was filmed, the video was filmed. Just hours upon hours of stress and work and energy, and, sure, we put this thing together in a very short amount of time in reality, but it was 2 years of, David writing his songs for it, 15 months, 16 months of he and I learning how to create it, in terms of not musically record it right, mix it right, tell the stories we want to tell, make the videos we want to make, create the online space and the feeling we want to feel, and go through the life that he needed to go through. And he comes out with this. And it's exactly what it needed to be. It's perfect. And now's the time to jump on the train, ladies and gentlemen. Because there's just so much more to come. And it's going to fucking kick you in the dick when you hear what's coming next. Because it's going to be amazing. But it's a while away, so click the links in the description and enjoy what it is now, which is Den Sessions. And I'm just grateful to have been a part of it and to go on the journey with him. David's an amazing guy, an amazing artist, and I'm so proud of him. So, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for the support on Den Sessions. Those of you who have listened and are so overwhelmed with love, support, and messages for Den Sessions. It means the absolute world to David. It means the absolute world to me. It's the funnest thing I've ever done in terms of content creation, because I never expected to be producing and working on an album of music. I love music so much. I'm a music fan, but to be working on it, it's what you don't expect to do. That's the most fun. That's why this is the most fun. So, with that, anyway, ladies and gents, thanks so much for tuning into this episode. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all next week for another one. Thank you. Good to be back, and goodbye.